this is Tiffany Mixon. I'm a 4th grade teacher, and I am here today to talk to you about division using the area model. Okay, I'm just going to give you an example of what the area model would look like and why we do what we do with the area model in 4th grade. So here's our first problem that we will use as an example. 593 divided by 4. Okay, in order to do this problem using area model, we're going to be splitting up an area. An area is just a space. We're going to use a rectangle for our space. Now, this divisor right here, it does not tell us how many spaces we're going to be splitting this area into. An area model is all about place value. So we're going to be looking at our dividend right here to find out how many spaces we're going to be splitting this area model into. For our dividend, we have a ones place, a tens place, and a hundreds place. So we have 3 place values and we need 3 spaces on our area model. So I'm going to split the area model into 3 parts. Okay? So this part right here is going to represent the ones, and then we have the tens and the hundreds. Okay, and I like to refer to these as columns so that the kids know when they're in the hundreds column, they only multiply their divisor by hundreds to subtract. Okay, and so on with the tens and the ones. Okay, to finish setting up our model here, we always like to put that what we're dividing by, what the divisor is, just so that the kids keep it fresh in their mind. Okay, and our dividend goes in the hundreds columns. We always want to start by subtracting the largest amount that we can first, since division is repeated subtraction. Okay, so we're going to start in this hundreds column, and we need to think. We're going to have 4 groups, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have 4 groups, and we have 593 that we want to evenly distribute as much as we can in each of the groups. So we've got 5 hundreds. Okay, so I need to think 4 times how many hundreds would give me 5 hundreds. Okay, so I can always start with 4 times 100, and that would give me 400. Now, using my knowledge of multiplication, I can say 4 times 200 is going to be too large, because 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 times 200 is 800. So if I need a division, I could say I can have 100 in each group, and that would give me my 400s, but I've only got 100 left, so I can't use that quite yet. So this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to use my 400 and my 100 here. Now my 100 is going to go on top because it is part of my quotient. Okay, just like with partial quotients, we still have partial quotients here. We're getting part of our quotient at a time, and we'll add it up at the end. So 100 is in each group. That's going to be part of my answer. And I'm going to subtract this 400 because this is how much I have already split into my groups. So when I subtract, I get 193. Okay, I am done with hundreds. I'm not going to be subtracting any more hundreds. I'm going to go ahead and bring my number over to the tens column. So using the area model, it's the same as partial quotients. It's just with partial quotients, you're working vertically, straight up and down, and with area model, you are working horizontally across. Okay, so now I'm in my tens column, and I can only multiply by tens. So one thing that I showed the kids was they can actually cover up the ones place to see how many tens they have. So cover up to the tens place and see that they have 19 tens. Okay, so now they can think 4 times how many tens would give them, as close to 19 tens as they can get. Okay, so you can think 4 times, 4 times 4 is 16, and 4 times 5 is 20. Well, 20 is going to be too much. So 4 times 4 tens would give me 16 tens. That's the closest I can get. So to rewrite this, it would be 4 times 4 tenths is 40 equals 16 tenths would be 160. Okay, I can subtract that. So I need to use the 160 and the 40. Now 40 is what's going to be going in each of my groups. So 40 is part of my quotient. So it goes right on top. Okay, and I can subtract my 160. And I get 33. Okay, this 33 is done with the tens column and it's going over to the ones. Alright, so now I have to think 4 times how much would get me as close to 33 as possible without going over. So, knowing my multiplication, I can say I know 4 times 8 is 32. So 32 is definitely going to be the closest I can get to 33 because 4 times 9 is 36 and that's too much. But I can subtract 32 and my 8 is going to go in each group. So it is part of my quotient. Okay, so now that I've done this, I can subtract and I have 1. 1 is smaller than 4, which is my divisor. So I know that I'm finished, and this is going to be called something called the remainder. Okay, this is my remainder. I have a remainder 1. To find my final answer, the last step is always add them up. Okay, so we're going to be adding these numbers up. So 100 plus 40 plus 8, that is going to give us 148 as our quotient with a remainder of 1. Okay, now I'd like to show you how we would check a division problem such as this. So in order to do this, you really have to know your vocabulary in relation to division. So our problem was 593 divided by 4, and we got the answer of 148, remainder 1. Okay, this first number right here is what we call the dividend. Okay, the dividend is the number that is being split up into equal groups by the divisor. Okay, our divisor right here is the number of groups that the dividend is being split into. So in this case, our dividend was being split into 4 equal groups. Okay, the quotient is the number that is in each group. So how much is in each group is the quotient. Okay, the equal amount that's in each group. And then we also have the remainder. The remainder is like what's left over. It's the leftovers. It's just what we have left after we split everything into equal groups. Okay? So in order for us to check our problem, we have to know what our parts are so we know what we're multiplying. When you check your problem, you always multiply the quotient times the divisor. Okay? And if you have a remainder, you have to add your remainder. If you have worked out your problem correctly, your answer in the end should be your dividend. Okay, let's see if we worked out this problem correctly. So our quotient was 148, and I'm going to be multiplying the quotient times the divisor. Now do not get confused with quotient and remainder. The quotient is the answer, not including the remainder. The remainder is something separate. It's the leftover. Quotient is the amount in each group. Okay, so I'm going to do this using partial products. So 4 times 8 is 32. 4 times 40 is 160. And 4 times 100 is 400. I'm going to add these together. And I get 592. I do have a remainder of 1, so I need to add on my remainder of 1, and I get 593. 593 is my dividend, so I know that I got this problem correct. This works for every single division problem that you will ever do. This is how you check every division problem. Okay, I'd like to do one more division problem with you before I go. This is a little bit of a larger number. We're going to do 2,574 divided by 5. Okay? Remember, when we are doing area model, we are not splitting this up into groups based on what the divisor is. We are splitting up our area model based on place value of the dividend. This dividend goes all the way to the thousands place. So we are going to start with thousands, okay? So we need to split this into 4 groups. We've got ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. Okay, we're dividing by 5, and I'm going to go ahead and put our dividend in the first box here. Okay, in this column we can only multiply by thousands. Well, 5 times 1,000 is going to give me 5,000, and that is too much. I cannot subtract 5,000, so I cannot use any thousands at all. And I'm just going to go ahead and bring my number right on over to the hundreds column. Now in the hundreds column, I can only multiply by hundreds. So 5 times how many hundreds gives me as close to 2,500 as I can get. That's what I need to know. So 5 times what will give me 25? Did you say 5? 5 times 500 will give me 2,500. Good job, give yourself a pat on the back. Okay, if I was going to rewrite this as numbers so that it's easier for me to plug into my problem here, I would say 5 times 500 gives me 2,500 or 2,500. 100 has 2 zeros, so since I'm making this hundreds, I would add 2 zeros to the end. Okay, so this 2,500 or 2,500 I can subtract, and 500 is going to be part of my quotient. Okay, when I subtract, I have 74 left to go over to the tens column. In the tens column, I only multiply by 10. So 5 times how many tens can get me as close to 7 tens as possible? Well, I know 5 times 10 is 50, and 5 times 20 would be 100. But 100 is too large, so 50 is where it is. Okay, 10 is going to be part of my quotient, and I'm going to subtract this 50, and I get 24 to go in my ones column. Okay, now I need to think 5 times how much will get me as close to 24 without going over. Well, because I know my 5s, I would have to say 5 times 4, because 5 times 5 is 25, but 5 times 4 is 20, and that won't go over. Okay, so my 4 goes on top, and I can subtract 20 here, and I have 4. Now this 4 is smaller than my divisor of 5, so I know that this is what I have left over, because I can't subtract any more multiples of 5. So this is going to be my remainder. Okay? Last step is to add up the partial quotients to find the answer. The answer will be 514 is my quotient with a remainder of 4.